All right, let us get real for a second. Picture this. You wake up one morning, look in the mirror, and the first thing you notice is not your radiant personality or your glowing potential, but that single nose hair long enough to braid. You go to brush your teeth, but halfway through, you wonder, who even am I brushing for? And also, what is that mysterious line on my forehead? Congratulations. You may or may not be experiencing what scientists, self help authors, and every sitcom dad since 1985 have lovingly dubbed the midlife crisis. Yes, the legendary life event that allegedly turns mild mannered parents into motorbike riding, leather jacket wearing, karaoke singing maniacs who suddenly need to climb mountains, buy red sports cars, or take up experimental jazz. But here's the burning question: is the midlife crisis actually a real, scientifically proven psychological event? Or is it just a convenient excuse for eating a whole cheesecake at 2 a.m. while browsing job postings for llama ranchers in Peru? Buckle up, because we are about to deep dive into the glorious, confusing, hilarious mystery that is the midlife crisis, separating hard facts from hard cheese in just the right amount of time for your tea to go lukewarm. Let us start by acknowledging that the midlife crisis is a concept so familiar that it has its own meme genre. You know the ones. A 46-year-old man buys a skateboard and sprains his dignity, or a woman in her late 40s gets a tattoo in ancient Sanskrit that accidentally translates to "please microwave for 2 minutes." But this is not just social media fodder. The term midlife crisis actually dates back to 1965, when psychologist Elliot Jacques coined it after noticing that middle-aged adults often question their lives and choices. Apparently, the world had been waiting for a scientific explanation for why someone would spontaneously sign up for salsa dancing after 30 years of hating cardio. Now for the science bit. Research says the classic midlife crisis is supposed to happen somewhere between ages 40 and 60, which is basically a very wide age bracket that includes everyone from proud minivan driver to learning TikTok for the first time. The core idea is that at midlife, people suddenly wake up to the sobering reality that, mathematically, they are not going to become an astronaut, rock star, or the world's tallest man. This creates what psychologists call existential dread, which is a fancy way of saying you have an urge to reevaluate your life while binge-eating family-sized packs of crisps. But is it real? Well, the answer depends on what you mean by real. If by real, you mean a universal, earth-shaking moment of self-doubt that every adult goes through, the answer is, surprisingly, not really. Studies show that only about 10 to 20% of adults report anything like a full-blown midlife crisis. That is right. The vast majority of people are just out here, hitting their 40s and 50s, experiencing more of a midlife mild inconvenience. Maybe their knees hurt a bit more. Maybe their sleep schedule is suddenly more mysterious than the Bermuda Triangle, but there are no secret motorcycle purchases or dramatic hair dyeing sessions. And plot twist, some people even hit their best stride during midlife. They feel more confident, more skilled, and more "I will wear socks with sandals if I want to" than ever before. So where did this myth become gospel? Partly, blame the media. Hollywood loves a good transformation montage, preferably with some 80s power ballads. Films and TV have baked the idea of the midlife crisis into our collective brains. Every other sitcom dad has that episode where he suddenly takes up magic or moves into a man cave filled with neon signs. The other reason is that human beings just love patterns. If you notice enough people around age 50 questioning life, you start to think it is a rite of passage, like puberty or growing a third eyebrow during exam season. Now, there are definitely real psychological changes that happen during midlife. Research shows that people do tend to reevaluate their lives as they get older. This can look like a career change, going back to school, or finally building that model train set you dreamed about in 1987. The reason is not always crisis, though. Sometimes it is just healthy reflection. Think of it as your brain's version of spring cleaning. You take stock, clear out what no longer fits, and make some space for what you really want. This is actually super positive. In fact, psychologists say that midlife can be one of the most creative and productive times in your entire life, unless your idea of productivity is beat my own record for the most hours spent watching true crime documentaries. Of course, there are exceptions. For some people, midlife brings real challenges like empty nest syndrome, health issues, career burnout, or feeling stuck. It is perfectly normal to feel lost or dissatisfied, and there is nothing wrong with suddenly wanting to learn French or climb Kilimanjaro. The problem only comes when the urge to change turns into full blown self destruct mode, like torching your life savings on beanie babies or ghosting your family to live off grid with alpacas. Experts say that if your crisis feels overwhelming or leads to impulsive decisions you regret, it is time to phone a friend, a therapist, or at least a very honest mirror. So, what can you do if you sense that your own midlife is coming with a side order of confusion? First, take a deep breath. Congratulations, you are officially normal. Second, try to separate what you actually want from what you think you are supposed to want. A lot of the midlife funk comes from comparing yourself to others, whether it is your neighbor's shiny new camper van or your cousin's gluten-free yoga studio. Comparison is the thief of joy and also of common sense. Just because Tom from the office bought a drone does not mean you need to build a backyard helipad. Focus on your real passions, even if that is organizing your spice rack alphabetically or finally finishing that 3,000-piece jigsaw of a field of sheep. Next, reframe your thinking. Midlife is not an ending, it is a remix. Think of your life as a playlist. If you have been listening to the same song since 2003, maybe it is time to add a few new tracks. Try something new, but do it for the joy of it, not because you want to fill some invisible void or impress people at your high school reunion. Take up painting, salsa, or underwater basket weaving if that is your jam. But remember, true growth feels awkward at first, kind of like wearing skinny jeans after a decade of dad shorts. Embrace it. If you find yourself feeling stuck or blue, remember to check in on your mental health. Studies show that talking things out really helps. Find a friend, a counselor, or even your neighbor's golden retriever. Just get it off your chest. And do not underestimate the power of physical activity. There is actual science proving that moving your body, even just a brisk walk, can rewire your brain and boost your mood. Plus, you get to wear stretchy clothes, which is basically the secret perk of adulthood. Now, here is a little known fact. A lot of midlife crisis is actually about regret and lost possibilities, a phenomenon psychologists call counterfactual thinking. In other words, you imagine what your life could have been if you had taken that other job, or dated that person, or learned the ukulele. The trick here is to remember that you are not living in a Marvel multiverse. Your life is your life, and it is never too late to add a new plot twist. One study from Harvard even found that people who focused on what they could do next, instead of what they had missed, were not only happier, but also more successful at achieving their goals. So let us put a new spin on things. You are not having a crisis, you are having a plot development. And finally, a word about age. It is just a number, but it is also your badge of survival. Every line on your face is proof you survived that time you ate mystery meat at summer camp or the great Wi-Fi outage of 2013. You have earned your wisdom, your quirks, and yes, your right to question your choices now and then. So if you wake up one day and decide to learn to rollerblade, more power to you. Wear knee pads, take photos, be the legend you want to see in the world. To wrap up, is the midlife crisis real? Kind of, sometimes, maybe, but only in the sense that being human is real, messy, and occasionally a bit bonkers. What matters is not whether you buy the sports car, but whether you remember to laugh at the fact that you once thought you needed to. Midlife is not a crisis, it is a crossroads, and the signposts are labeled, do what makes you feel alive, try something new, and skip the bad haircut. You are not running out of time, you are running into the best part of your story. So go ahead, celebrate your milestones, reinvent yourself as often as your passwords, and if you have survived this long without impulse buying a jet ski, you are already winning. If you enjoyed this fast, funny, and questionably wise look at the midlife crisis, give us a like, hit that subscribe button, and drop your best midlife story in the comments. Bonus points if it involves skydiving, salsa, or an unfortunate tattoo. This is XQ, quick, funny explanations, serving you genius-level answers at the speed of laughter. Until next time, keep questioning, keep laughing, and keep rocking whatever decade you are in.